Welcome to the final episode of our Build My Money Machine series. If you're just joining us, go back to parts 1 through 4, where we laid the groundwork for creating sustainable business success. Those episodes cover everything from business foundations to digital transformation. And today, in part 5, our series conclusion, we're pulling back the curtain on Millionaire University's current operations and sharing specific strategies that are working right now. You'll learn exactly how we're scaling, our key metrics, and the specific levers that we're pulling to grow. Plus, we'll introduce the powerful concept of money buckets, a framework that could transform how you think about business growth in 2025. We hope that you have gotten so much value out of this entire series and that you are going to listen to it again and again to help you build the foundation to launching your own successful and profitable business in 2025. So let's dive into part 5. Class is in session.
And that brings us to our most recent business venture, Millionaire University. Step 1, business idea. Well, we by now have had a lot of experience in business, had coached tons of people, had worked with lots of other business owners. We felt like we kind of have I don't know if unique is the right way of saying it, but a way of seeing business and business opportunities and seeing where people could improve. As annoying as it may have been to some people, while others I think liked it sometimes, I was constantly coaching, trying to help people at family reunions or in other walks of life, other people I would come across. I don't know what it is, but there's something about my belief in people and what is possible. Combine that with the insane amount of frustration that we, and especially me, had with our education system and how it seemed so wrong to me, so off. And then throw in the things that I felt like were needed in the online education space. And the fact that our kids were and are getting to that age where they need to figure out what they're going to do next in life. The fact that we had taken off some time, I didn't feel the same confidence that I had before. I wasn't really listening to business podcasts and books and wasn't as well connected in that space. I wanted to be there for them. I didn't want to grow old and feel like I didn't know or have confidence in how to grow a successful business. Money wasn't as strong of a motivator for us this time. So we didn't need something that would make money right away. There had been plenty of times when I thought, well, we can just do more real estate if we want, or I could start my own pest control business or something along those lines. But the fact that we didn't need the money, we knew that we needed to be doing something that we were more passionate about. At the beginning, the passion and desire to make money, to pay the bills, to take care of our family, to put food on the table, to pay off our debts, to be able to travel and do fun things that you can do with money, get the freedom that money gives you, buy the house you want. That was all motivation enough to do the very thing that we felt like could make us the most money the fastest. But now things had changed. Our motivations, our desires had changed. And don't get me wrong, we were still very interested in making money, not only to grow the business, but the fact that we had recently purchased a multi-million-dollar house, mostly with cash. Lots of our investments were tied up. We had invested a lot of money in different companies, one of those being the software company that I just mentioned, and not wanting to sell some of our investments, not wanting at that time to sell our house. We were definitely okay with making some extra money. But once again, it was much different. We could easily liquidate some things. We could sell some things if we needed to. The net worth was there. But I don't know, there's just something fun about creating multiple income streams. So while that drive alone to make some extra money wasn't enough this time, it still helped add to us eventually taking the plunge. As far as marketing and sales and getting the message out, we already had experience with podcasting and some online marketing. And once again, that's how we enjoy sharing content, sharing information. So we thought, let's start there, but let's also do a bunch of other things. Social media, develop our website, grow an email list, YouTube, Twitter, which is social media, but a bunch of different social media channels. It's almost like we had some time off and we were just ready to hunker down and really blow this thing up, really make it happen. So we put a ton of time into developing and creating the website, creating the first episode, and then we put it out there and crickets. At the same time, we were writing blog posts and doing Twitter threads and trying to create Instagram content. We thought, okay, maybe some of the other things will help push the message out there. And we got to the point where we were doing way too much each day. We were getting majorly burnout, getting very little to no traction in any of these avenues. So my suggestion, once again, as I've tried to learn this lesson over and over, is focus. Finish one course until success. The truth is we could have been successful in any one of these lanes, and we thought we'd go out and kill it in all of them, quite frankly. But unfortunately, it's just not usually the way it works. He who chases 2 rabbits, let alone 10, catches none. So some of the marketing channels we cut completely. We decided not to even focus on them, while others we really dumbed down on. And even though we weren't getting a lot of traction in the podcast, we just decided, let's go all out here. Let's go all out in focusing on podcast growth. So that's what we did. And it was brutal. I don't say that to discourage you, but just to emphasize that any business you start, there are going to be some crazy hurdles. If it were super easy, everyone would do it, right? But the thing is, so many people quit way too early that they have no idea just how worth it is. So we kept going. We had a goal of hitting 1 million downloads by the end of that first year, which by my calculations, based on the hypothesis that I had, based on the information that I felt like I had and or researched, I figured would make us around $100,000 profit per month. But we didn't even get close to that. In fact, we weren't even profitable by the end of our first year. Not even close, actually. Getting listeners and downloads was way harder than I thought. The cheese had moved. The industry had changed. Getting sponsors, which was something that we had never really done in the past, was way harder than I thought as well. It wasn't just a matter of reach out to some people and they're lining up to sponsor your podcast. But we kept pushing and learning and adapting and adjusting, and over time started to see some traction. Forward 2 steps, back 1. Successes followed by major failures, rejection from agencies and potential sponsors. At one point, we finally thought we had it figured out and we were racking up the downloads. And then only to realize one day that many of the listeners that we had were coming from a handful of countries that our agency said the majority of sponsors would not be willing to promote to. It was brutal. I remember my family being in Waikiki and spending hours back at the hotel editing while they were out enjoying the beach. What the heck was I doing? I thought about 10,000 times. I don't have to do this. But long story short, things have really turned around since that time. And just a couple days ago, we crossed the 1 million downloads in the past 30 days mark. And while we aren't at quite 100K in revenue per month, we did do about 70K in revenue in the past 30 days. With that said, we probably spent about $40,000 on marketing and overhead. So not anywhere near the $100,000 profit per month that I was hoping for. But to have another stream of income from a business that we started less than 2 years ago that is doing $70,000 a month with $30,000 per month in profit that we are barely involved in and are able to put minimum time into isn't too shabby. At the rate we're going 7 figures next year in our 3rd year with a $400,000 to $500,000 net profit should be a pretty easily obtainable goal while maintaining a great lifestyle and only putting in a few hours a week of our time. So what are some of the leverage points that we have, can, or could implement to get to where we are now and where we want to or could go? As mentioned previously, while we talk about the points of leverage separately, in practice, it's almost impossible to separate each one as they all work together. But I'm going to break down how we have built our current money machine and how we plan to continue to grow and build it in the future. And I want you to listen for and recognize these different points of leverage and how they work together. First off, people. We have co-hosts who conduct interviews with other amazing business owners, editors who do the editing, 2 agencies that help us get sponsors to fill ad space, and an amazing executive assistant who is our only full-time employee who brings everything together. From scheduling to finalizing show notes to promoting the show and creating social media content and everything else it takes to keep the show and Millionaire University running. Next point of leverage, systems and processes. I've mentioned this before, but something that I want to really make sure I emphasize. Systems and processes come from taking action. Most people do this backwards and therefore never get anywhere. They try to have a perfect plan, create perfect systems and processes before ever doing anything. And while it's good to have a basic vision, a hypothesis of some of the things that you think you will be doing, some of the goals that you have, systems and processes are built and created based on the information you get from the actions that you take. When I was in Waikiki doing hours of editing, I knew that I had to get an editor. And while that seems obvious, truthfully, it was a pain. It's a pain having to find, hire, and train and work with the right people. But once again, nobody said it was going to be easy, only that it would be more than worth it. And I am here to testify for the fourth, fifth, or sixth time now that that is so true. In all honesty, we actually had to go through several editors. And the one that we currently have is not perfect. But that one person alone not only saves us hours of time, but has allowed us to do more shows. We are no longer limited by our own time or ability or capacity. Some of our current systems include either our assistant or our co-hosts scheduling interviews. Our assistant is made aware when these interviews are scheduled so she can plan content accordingly. Immediately after the interviews are completed, the co-hosts send an email to our editor and include our assistant. Once interviews have been edited and intros, outros, and music and transitions have been completed, the final episodes are sent to our assistant, Michelle, where she does a quick review to make sure that everything is up to the MU standards, creates show notes, schedules ad spots, and schedules the episode for publication. The next leverage point that we capitalize on to build our money machine is money. Currently, each episode of the Millionaire University podcast costs about $150 to produce. Each episode has about 13 to 15,000 listeners or downloads prior to additional promotion. On average, we currently bring in about 7 cents per download or $70 per every 1,000 listens that we get. This means total revenue from sponsorships on what we call organic listens or listens prior to additional promotion is about $900 to $1,000 per episode. It doesn't take a math genius to know that spending $150 to make $900 to $1,000 back is a pretty good return. When it comes to advertising dollars, we are currently spending about 5 cents to get a download or $50 to get 1,000 downloads, which means for every $50 we spend to promote and grow our podcast, we're making about $70 back. I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying here. We are literally getting paid to promote our podcast, to promote our platform, to grow our audience. On top of that, we also bring in a few $1,000s per month from guest contributions and co-ops, as well as Build My Money Machine course sales. And then, of course, I think it goes without saying that other points of leverage that we use to grow the Millionaire University platform and podcast are, of course, media, technology, tools, etc. Now that we have officially created our money-making machine, aka making a multiple of the amount of money and or time we put in each month, with minimal involvement from us, there are multiple levers we can pull or paths we can go down to continue to grow the profitability or money buckets here at Millionaire University. For example, the obvious ones are create more content. We recently did a test run to see if publishing 5 episodes per week affected our downloads per episode. And fortunately, it did not, which means simply going from a 3 times a week show to a daily show would add about $12,000 of profit per month or $144,000 of profit per year to our bottom line. And while this one thing alone, which would take very little effort from Tara and I personally, would increase revenue by about 20%, which is amazing. It would actually increase our profitability by 40%, which is huge. Just to get you inside my brain a little bit, one of the ideas I had is what would happen if we did multiple episodes per day? I don't know if there's a podcast that currently does this, but I do know that there are publications that put out many articles every day. What if we became this huge media company whose main focus was podcasting and we put out 5 to 10 episodes per day? Now, this is theoretical because I don't know that we would still continue to get the same amount of downloads per episode. I imagine there would be some diminishment there, but also there would be other growth factors like collaborations between more guests and more guests sharing the Millionaire University podcast. Could we add another $50,000 to $100,000 in pure profit just from creating more content? Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that we are going to be doing that or we doing that anytime soon. That would be a pretty big undertaking and would definitely require more infrastructure than we currently have. Not to mention, it's just a potential theory. And I have ideas like this every day, nonstop, basically. Other obvious levers are to continue promoting the show. If we make on average 7 cents per download and it costs us 5 cents per download, that sounds like a no-brainer. So that's something that we will continue to do and continue to push. And you might be saying, well, why don't you just spend millions of dollars all at once if you know that you're making 7 cents for every 5 cents you spend? And the answer is that while we know that we can spend 30,000 and have those numbers work, that's the most that we've spent in any given month. So we continue to push those boundaries. We continue to work with our agency and sponsors to grow responsibly. We continue to look for other ways to promote our podcast and platform. Another lever we could pretty easily pull is working with our current primary agency to increase our ad fill percentage. Partly due to our rapid growth, our agency is probably currently filling about 20 to 25% of current potential ad spots. We have multiple options here. We could either work with them to increase that number, find a different agency to potentially work with, or fill these spots on our own. Doing just one of these things could double our current revenue, which would increase overall profitability by more than 400%. Another thing that we can and are starting to do more and will continue to do more of into 2025 is collaboration with other podcasters and content creators. This will be done through podcast swaps, promo swaps. One pretty low hanging lever that we could pull is we are currently filling little to no of our post-roll ad spots. It's just not something that either one of our current agencies focus on. So on average, this past month, we probably had about 2 million potential post-roll ad spots go unfilled. We could either reach out to other podcasters and do an ad swap promo where they promote our show and we promote their show, which could give us some huge exposure, or we could sell those ad spots at a discount of $10 for every 1,000 impressions and bring in an extra $20,000 in profit per month. What's exciting is how all these little money machines within your bigger money machine work together for exponential growth. For example, growing our downloads by creating more content and or promoting more would result in more overall downloads, which would result in more potential post-ad impressions. 2 million monthly downloads would lead to 4 million available post-roll ad spots, which could potentially equal even more growth and exposure, or an additional monthly net profit of $40,000 versus $20,000. Working with our agencies and or sponsors to double the revenue that we make per download, while at the same time doubling total downloads would 4x total revenue. Other potential money machines that we could focus on in 2025 and beyond could include growing our email list and weekly newsletter subscriptions, and then selling sponsorship or ad space in those newsletters, and or promoting our own or other affiliate offers. We could also really focus on growing on YouTube, collecting money from ads, and once again, promoting our own or other affiliate programs or offers. Same with social media. A big one for us could also be to create other programs, products, memberships high ticket coaching and mastermind groups, marketing services, tools, software, etc. All of these things would take time, energy, effort, dedication, focus, money in many cases. To get going and get off the ground, we would have to bring on the right team members, put in the right infrastructure, find the right places to invest, test out different things, different ads, different ways of promoting. But they would eventually all bleed into each other and play off of each other and help each other and continue the exponential growth of Millionaire University. This is why you see huge companies just get bigger. Once you have that platform, the following, the audience, the customers, the team, the systems, the processes in place, things get really exciting. And that's why you see the top 1% or the top 0.1% or 0.001% making significantly more than other people or companies. With that said, as always, once again, you want to consider your personal situation. What are your goals? While here at Millionaire University, our goal is growth. It is to make money. It is to help people. It is never at the cost of what we call our non-negotiables, which we'll get into more in Module 10, our final module. But one concept that I want to share with you before we wrap this module up is what I call the holes in the money buckets concept. I want you to imagine that you're sitting in a room surrounded by any given number of buckets. We'll call it anywhere from 10 to 100 buckets. Each of these buckets have multiple small holes, either in the bottom or the sides of these buckets. The game you are playing is you are trying to fill all of the buckets with water and keep them full and have them be full at the same time and have them overflow with water. In fact, I want you to imagine that maybe it's gold liquid. Yes, we are evolving this as we go. So now we've got these buckets and we have this hose that has gold liquid flowing out of it. The thing is, you only get to keep the gold liquid that overflows from any given bucket, not the gold liquid that is just going on the ground or leaking out of the buckets. But you can use any gold liquid that overflows from one bucket to help you fill the other buckets. What is your strategy? Do you try to fill multiple buckets at one time, running from one bucket to the other, filling them partway or halfway full? Or do you focus on one bucket until it overfills and then use that bucket to help fill the other buckets? Hopefully you've picked up on the fact that if you try to fill all the buckets at once, the holes will cause this liquid gold to come out of the buckets before any of it overflows. But the gold liquid that overflows, you can either keep for profit for you and your family to do as you will. You could put it into the other buckets, or you could even make a bigger bucket of the same bucket that you have and continue to pour more and more into this bucket and allow it to overflow even more. Let's just say that the bucket can get bigger and the holes remain the same in this scenario. These buckets represent different areas of focus in your business, specifically different marketing and or sales avenues or profit centers in your business. So while there are a million, bazillion, gajillion different ways that you can make money, trying to do several of them at once will typically get you nowhere. Ask me how I know. This is why, even though the focus of this module is build my money machine, I kind of took you down a memory lane road and shared with you all of the struggles, the challenges that we've had, different times when we try to do too much at one time. Building a money machine is not easy. It is one of the most challenging things you will ever do. But once you do it, your life will be forever changed. We're now in a spot with Millionaire University where we can go one of many directions. We don't have to put in 70 hours a week or tap into our own personal funds. We can now use these additional profits for personal reasons and or to continue to fill these other buckets. Side note, when you put the overflowing liquid gold back into one of the buckets, you don't have to pay Uncle Sam and are therefore growing your asset, your business, your money machine tax-free with those dollars. Yeah, baby. Our strategy will be to continue to grow the buckets that we know are working. and are working well. We've plugged a lot of those holes. There have been a lot of other mini buckets that go into those buckets that continue to feed all of the buckets. Yes, I may have to continue to work on this analogy, but I hope you hear what I'm saying. There might be some of you out there that are saying, yeah, but you guys had this and that and the other. That's why I brought you through the whole scenario. We started with literally nothing. Even the skills that we had from our first business were something that we had to gain. But if you do and apply the things that we have taught you so far in the Build My Money Machine program and in this module, you do those hard things. You adapt to your personal situation. You take action where it counts. You stay persistent. You tame the brain. You learn from your mistakes. You recognize that there is no true failure. You mitigate your risk. You appreciate the learning. You're consistent and persistent. You look for and identify the points of leverage, never staying stagnant. You will, without a doubt, eventually see and get results that you never imagined possible. Now, go build your money machine.
That concludes our Build My Money Machine series. We've taken you from basic business principles through to advanced scaling strategies across these 5 episodes that are pulled from a module of our Build My Money Machine program. If you jumped to this episode and you skipped all the other 4 principles, I hope that you will dive back in, because each episode builds on the last one to create a total blueprint for entrepreneurial success. Thank you for joining us on this journey. And remember, building a money machine isn't easy, but as you've learned throughout the series, it's one of the most worthwhile challenges that you can undertake. Now it's your turn. Take these principles and start building your own money machine. And until next time, friends, class is officially dismissed.